So, welcome to the Golden Age podcast. We firmly believe that in spite of all the chaos and confusion in this world, there's actually a really bright future ahead of us. And once the heart of humanity awakens and we remember who we truly are, we're going to co create a totally different world that's blossoming based on love, connection, abundance, and the remembering of our true nature. And here at the Golden Age podcast, we invite inspiring guests who are already contributing to the building of this new world through their work. And I'm really happy to be here today with my friend Burkhard, who's the founder of the Akasha Yoga Academy in Bali. And since more than a decade, he's dedicating his entire being to teaching the ancient arts and sciences of yoga and meditation through his online courses and teacher trainings. And I know from my own experience and from the time I spent with him that he's really living these arts of yoga meditation. He's breathing them and he's fully dedicating himself to bring them to the world. And I'm really happy to have you here today, Burkhard. Welcome.
Thank you so much. So good to see you after the long time we haven't met in person. I still remember our last gathering here when you visited in Bali, but the good old days are longer time ago when we had these meditation retreats together in Thailand some 12, 15 years ago. I remember sitting so many silent meditation retreats together with you. And it's for me the good old days. And I still feel a very heartfelt connection with you. And I'm truly thankful that we have this framework now to meet in a semi-public space where others can join in to our heartfelt spiritual connection.
Yes, thank you. And it's also through these times that we share together and the depths of the practices that we experienced that I know that your work is filled with that spirit of true dedication to the heart, to presence, to meditation, to yoga. And I want to start with the question of how do you actually experience the benefits of yoga and meditation in your own being? It's a very basic question, but for many people, this is very important to hear. Why do you practice yoga and meditation?
Yeah, the benefits of meditation. There are so many areas and layers of it. And one can, of course, look at the kind of objectively proven scientific benefits of the meditation practice. And as a meditation teacher, I've been researching those very thoroughly, looking at the brain waves and brain scans with the CT, MRI scanner, how one can see structural changes in the matter of the brain and all the rest of it. So many benefits have been scientifically proven in many studies of reputable universities, etc. But more relevant are, of course, our own experiences, the tangible benefits, which are not just long-term statistical, kind of seemingly objective benefits, but my subjective experience. And that is a very fundamental experience that it helps me to ground, to stay centered, and to be focused on what really matters in life. And in our turbulent times, this is more relevant than ever because it's so easy to get not only distracted by technology and all the overflow in the information age, but also by emotional charges which are coming together with these global events. I mean, we've had like tsunami wave after wave in the last years, from Me Too movement via Black Lives Matter to climate change and Donald Trump and Ukraine war, recession, you name it, we've seen it. Not even to mention the pandemic. To keep sanity in these turbulent times is not easy. So my heartfelt compassion goes always out to those people who are living in very challenging circumstances and who do not have those meditative tools to center and ground themselves. Because I notice even in myself how I sometimes get some kind of blast from the side and like, whoa, okay, shake it off, come back to the stability of the practice. So bottom line, not only mental focus, but also emotional stability and clarity is one of the kind of hands-on daily life benefits of the formal sitting practice. So kind of the grounding of the formal sitting meditation carries over into the daily life and resonates throughout the day. So that maybe a few headlines to mention. There would be many more, but as a
Yes.
starting point.
And you mentioned these turbulent times, and I think it's obvious that this world is going through many storms. But it's also very good to know that this was actually is known in many of the ancient science in the Vedas and the Vedic culture. This is known as Kali Yuga, like the dark age of consciousness, where there is a lot of chaos and confusion in this world. But the good news is also that the night is the darkest just before dawn, and that after these dark ages of consciousness, there's a new world ahead of us, the so-called Satya Yuga, the golden age of consciousness, where we're going to experience ourselves in this world in a totally different way. And I often feel like yoga and meditation are tools to help us to remember our future, which is also our past at the same time. And I'm curious, how do you see or how do you perceive our human nature changing once we are transitioning from Kali Yuga into Satya Yuga, from these dark ages into the golden age, both on the inside and on the outside?
Yes, in many ways, it is essential for us to cultivate this trust and heartfelt connection to the light in our own being, within ourselves, and remain connected despite of the challenges that we just talked about. And then out of our own clarity and radiant presence, we naturally connect with others in our surroundings in a more harmonious way. So I tend to rather approach it in the down to earth, immediate, direct connections, even though I'm a very big fan of the bigger picture theory and the vision and metaphysics and integral studies and so on. Yet where it becomes tangible is in my personal relation with myself and with the people around me. So it starts small, and in a way, the ripple effects from my own little actions to my other actions, and then to the thoughts, speech, and actions which are connecting to other people in communication, where we start forming kind of inner circles, family, community, and wider, broader subcultural context. This is in a way where I prefer to focus my dedication to. In a way, not fighting the darkness and trying to struggle and hassle with whatever type of questionable circumstances and people, but rather emphasize the light within myself and in my immediate surroundings, and then just trying our limited best to lead with a perfect example, knowing that we are constantly falling short and having our own limitations and shortcomings, but trying our best, acknowledging our limitations, and then from there radiating into the community, into the subculture, and then knowing that the subculture is not isolated, but that in the modern information age and in the old days, we are interconnected, and there are effects and kind of these ripple effects, maybe even snowball or ultimately avalanche effects, which are helping us to spread the good news also to those people who are currently kind of overshadowed by somewhat problematic tendencies. But my approach is always to not dualize so much and not blame and judge and label and come with a negative condemning attitude towards people who seemingly are not so dedicated to the beneficial aspects of life, but seemingly in the end they're also just human beings doing their best in according to their life circumstances. So picking people up where they're at instead of judging. So with a radical invitation of spiritual masters like Ram Dass and others, why not put a picture of Donald Trump on your altar, or whoever politician or other dark figure your mind would be condemning, and in a compassionate way meet your enemies with an open heart and don't see them as enemies but as other human beings.
I like this. And I also believe that once we're collectively awakening to who we truly are, there will be a lot of compassion and forgiveness. And we need to overcome this like judging and attacking. Even fighting the darkness doesn't help. And also you said
Exactly.
something about the immediate environment, and I totally agree that even in this storms that are happening on this planet, we can create little bubbles of light and we can cultivate them. And once the circumstances are ready, all these bubbles will interconnect and lighten up the entire planet. I mean, they're already interconnected, but then it will just become much more obvious.
Yes, very much,
Beautiful.
very much. Exactly. The synergy is the name of the game, because alone it's completely impossible to make a huge scale difference. We can only do it together. So that shared collective momentum, which we can build and in a way prepare. But in a way, I'm not kind of for kind of future anticipation so much, but no, what we can do now. So of course, we have human tendencies of sustaining, protecting ourselves. And I remember at the beginning of the pandemic here on a tropical island, we were also a bit worried about how well we can sustain ourselves when there's no this and no that. So stocking up on this and a bit of a paranoid mode. So that's a very human tendency of self-protection, of course. But I try to avoid these kind of, it's a so-called prepper movement of kind of like paranoid preparation for the apocalypse. Sure, it might come and we better be prepared, sure, but not in this defensive paranoid way, but always stepping forward with this life-affirming trust, and knowing that whatever will come, we have the tools, the strength, the momentum, the collective synergy to make the best out of it. And it's quite surprising and intense what comes up, and it might get even worse and even more crazy and intense. Who knows? So yes, have that resilience, have that determination, trust, and that momentum of inner strength to be resilient in a tough storm, to not be blown away. And in a way, we grow with the challenges, as we did over the last years. And again, brush it off, come back to center, and then kind of consolidate in our community. And it also brings us closer together as human beings, as we can see in many of those movements which are arising in the struggle with the challenge.
Yes. And I noticed one aspect of these times is I don't know what to believe anymore. I feel like there aren't many structures that we can trust on the outside. But I find that practices like yoga and meditation that you teach, they help us to connect more with our inner light and to find this trust in our own inner guidance, which is so relevant and basically the only truth that we can really, really trust in. And I feel like in the transformation of humanity out of these dark ages, this is so relevant that we learn how to connect with our inner light, with our soul, that we even understand what that means. And I really appreciate that you dedicate yourself to teaching yoga and meditation, which I find so essential in this transformational process. So thank you for that. And from your own experience, how do you see and perceive also the changes in your students when you observe them over a longer period of time when they indulge in the practice of yoga and meditation? I'm curious.
In many ways, our students, the participants of our intensive courses, are surprised, if not to say blown away, by the benefits and by the tangible results which they are getting from the practices. And also, as we were just talking about the collective synergy, how they get in a way reconfirmed in the family, in that global yoga family which we are cultivating in our online courses. There's a lot of newfound trust and momentum coming from these practices, where it's a mutual inspiration. So I might feel a certain aspect of benefits, an area of results that I'm getting, and that's very tangible for me. And then I share that in a group setting, in a sharing circle, etc. And that inspires other people to like, wow, I didn't even consider that. And like, it's true, yeah, I did notice some of that, but I didn't give it so much attention, emphasis yet. So that can be an eye-opening experience for me to receive somebody else's benefits, and will change the focus of my practice and the direction of my curiosity, how I'm practicing, and it opens new doors. Just recently, I was a few times reading in the self-development literature some accounts of, I forgot the details of it, but a track and field kind of running competition where, I forgot if it's a quarter mile or some standard distance, where the world record was finally broken to run it after whatever, the marathon after under 3 hours, whatever it was. And it was finally broken after so many attempts. And once that threshold, that frontier was broken by one hero, then in the months and years to follow, so many people just went through themselves because it became possible. So it needs some people who are guiding the way, who are breaking through, and who are in a way softening and in a way preparing the path for others to continue. And this is what you were mentioning with this inner journey, that we can find this trust within, because what else outside, we cannot rely on anything anymore. It's kind of all falling and crumbling apart. Yeah, okay, we find that trust within, but if we don't have any experience and tools, we can be somewhat lost. How do we gain orientation? We look at the timeless wisdom. So we see what has been withstanding the proof of time, of not only decades and generations of human endeavors, but of centuries and millennia. And obviously, it was not just the good old days, but there have been severe wars and catastrophic events throughout human history, in many ways actually much worse than in the current times.
Through the known history.
Closer. Exactly, yes. So whatever, no? If you look back a few decades, a few centuries, Europe was kind of constantly in war, to just give an example there. So no, how did those people in the old days deal with it? And what is the time-proven wisdom which got passed on across the generations? And how can we learn from that experience? How can we benefit from the struggles and insights which the masters had before us, so we don't need to reinvent the wheel? So that is always my approach, to try to rescue the best of the good old days and make it applicable in our modern times. And this is what we are transmitting to the participants of our courses, and giving them hands-on, practical, applicable tools and tangible advice. And then they experience those benefits themselves. Then they become alive, vivid, convincing in our own experience, because no external argument can really convince me. Only my own experience is what really puts a foundation of conviction. But still, then I get inspired by other people in the community and pass it on, and we uplift each other in that process. So that, in a nutshell, the process, how I experience it in our community, with by now more than 2,000 yoga teachers, either graduated already or currently in our platform, going into the depth of yoga and meditation. It's in our years and decades of experience also a time-proven wisdom, even in the short term, not to mention the centuries and millennia and the giants on whose shoulders we are standing.
Oh, thank you. That's really impressive. 2,000 yoga teachers. So I know since more than a decade you're already building and developing the Akasha Yoga Academy in Bali. And I really appreciate that, because you're not just sitting in a cave practicing by yourself. You're fully dedicated to your own practice, but at the same time, you're also fully dedicated to sharing this with the world. And I'm also impressed how you're balancing the depths of practice with being able to co-create an organization that can make this accessible to so many people around the planet. And Also, maybe you can share a little bit about your own process with like building this organization, the Akasha Yoga Academy, especially in the beginning, because I assume there were also some challenges. But how did you get from like, just being a serious practitioner to now being still a serious practitioner, but also running a blossoming organization in a very professional way at the same time?
Yes, it's a journey and it's a process, as you were mentioning. Of course, there are obstacles, and it depends on the perspective one takes. One can easily see that life is a series of problems which then need to be solved, issues which we need to fix. And it's very obvious in a way that it appears like this, because it's like, in a way, like one problem, another problem, then a big problem, and then a smaller problem, and then a tsunami of like the biggest mess, which, whoa, okay, we kind of survived. And then the small problems afterwards appear comparatively easy to deal with. So as mentioned before, we grow with the challenges, but it is a matter of perspective, because it is not really that life is a sequence of problems to be solved. It is, if one at least a bit gets out of that perspective, we can see it as an opportunity to develop. As we grow with the challenge, as mentioned, we grow up, we improve, we upgrade, we fine-tune, we develop our discernment of not being too overwhelmed by comparatively smaller friction. And in this way, we remain centered and we cultivate that trust. So trust is the name of the game, to cultivate continuity, to just continue and continue. And not in this way of struggling in the problem-solving process, but just in a joyful way, like, wow, another opportunity for me to straighten things out and clean it up, clear it up. It's a famous quote of one of the great masters of non-duality who we have as a shared ancient teacher, Nisargadatta Maharaj, a very famous master of non-duality, famous book, I Am That by Nisargadatta. And the simple quote, there seems to be a universal law. Clean up your mess. So
That's true.
so no, it's kind of brushing. And with the quote of Muji, don't be overwhelmed by all these huge problems which might come in the future and the imagination of the problems ahead. To give you one example, my brother just said that he's coming and preparing, and he watched the weather forecast and he's preparing for his arrival just yesterday. And my mother was telling me he's so worried about the weather and what if it will be raining in the tropics and so on. And I was like, why? Like, he was freaking out at home already. Like, why do we worry about the problems which might come, but which are not necessarily here? So as Muji says, clean as you go, broom the path, brush it away as it comes. So you don't need to kind of exaggerate, like with your over preparation, as I was mentioning before, this paranoid preparatory approaches. No, just kind of take it as it comes, because we don't know if, especially here in the tropics, if it will be a sunny day or a rainy day. It's sunshine in the morning and monsoon thunderstorms in the afternoon, and we never know. So that would be a generalizing feedback on how to build an organization, is to have the perseverance. You gotta be in it for the long journey. And if you get blown away by little obstacles, it's not gonna go far, because life, it's pre-programmed that there will be obstacles. So,
Yes.
and then don't fight with them. Like we said before, don't fight with the darkness, but cultivate the light. It's another opportunity to grow and up our game. And as our co-teacher, my dear friend Devdas, was saying when the pandemic was hitting, wow, like this is really severe stuff for us, because we were a travel-based on-site yoga academy offering for a decade destination courses in tropical islands in Asia, and then nobody could travel. Like, wow, I mean, that was a hit in the face. Like, and it took us like till today that we're attempting to recover from that. And we've come a long way since that. And We went bankrupt 2 times on the way almost, and kind of made it through. And even in the last weeks and months, despite of having such a growing organization and so much income, but the costs are kind of going up at the same time. So I'm just actually in the last days and weeks, to be honest, I'm having some restless days and nights wondering how we will pay the bills. So, and then I notice how that's kind of making me edgy and aggravated. And okay, come back to the practice. And what I was just going to quote with our co-teacher friend Dev Das, with those challenges, when the challenges come big, we better double up on our practice. No, we got to keep up. Also, we've been really cultivating also our self-care in the last years, since these massive challenges and kind of upside down situation of turning our travel-based yoga school into an online academy. We've been doubling up on all areas, definitely on food, nutrition. Like, like we live on like whole food, nuts, seeds, fruit, vegetables, green smoothies, superfood, like full power only. Kind of like we only try to sustain with that. And then I get lost again and I enjoy a 4-cheese pizza. Okay, we survive. Fair enough. But like on our baseline is like daily practice, good nutrition, trying to get enough sleep, all those basic things which everybody knows. And then we get a bit out of balance again because it's intense and the deadline, which we just see as a lifeline to grow and shine more. Okay, we got to go strong for the launch of a new something, meditation teacher training. We're just recording. Recently, we released the Yin Yoga teacher training, and like with a challenge and an online event, and it's like fully intense. And then afterwards, I go to a 10-day silent meditation retreat just last month. And that reminded me so much of the good old days where we shared dozens of those 10-day silent retreats. So counterbalancing the intensity of the externalizing activism with the internalizing of the deep practice and absorption, contemplation. And my best recommendation, go to nature, because nature is the best healer. And there is no bad weather. Just get the right clothes, go out there and allow yourself to release as you breathe in the beauty of nature.
Thank you. And also, if you have a higher purpose, like if you build an organization like the Akasha Yoga Academy, which serves a higher purpose, there's also like a strength that carries you, right? The trust that carries you. That wouldn't be there if this would be a business that is exploiting the earth. But it's like, you're doing the right thing, and from that place, you can't give up, right? It's not an option even.
Exactly.
I also often see like how in these dark times that we're in, business has a very bad reputation, because most big businesses in this world are based on greed and exploitation. But ultimately, we want to co-create a new world, and I think we also need to co-create business. And organizations like the Akasha Yoga Academy and also ourselves, Mypalmleaf, I think we are also trying at least to be an example in this area. Like building sustainable organizations, but that are serving the planet, that they're serving people, they are not exploiting people. And I think for this reason, it's very, very important also that the more we are in our spiritual practice, the more we are also open to ground and put this into projects that also have an effect on the world. So I find this really, really inspiring. That you do this already over a decade and have also pivoted, like changed the model how you're offering your teachings through challenges like the pandemic, like that you didn't give up, but you're just like, okay, how can we change? How can we flow with these challenges? And I find this as inspiring as the teachings of yoga meditation themselves. So thank you for embodying that.
Yes, thank you for being an ally on this path and mutually uplifting each other. And like I say, it's in some ways setting an example, but not in the old greedy way of showing off, but just to inspire each other and uplift each other when not just sometimes things go south and get problematic in this way or another. may it be personal relationship context, family, diseases, health issues, this or that, or more global external events, whatever it may be. It's normal that we go through cycles. And as you were mentioning before, that trust into the broader picture and into the essence of why we are doing things. If we are not just being driven by greed, motivated by making a lot of money, but having a broader mission. And there's nothing wrong with also making a lot of money on the way. If that happens, great, sure, why not? But never losing touch with the real reason, with the depth of why we are sharing that. And there is not just one and the only reason. There's different layers, of course, on the spiritual, full existential depth, but also filtering down into psychological, emotional, energetic, and physical benefits of the practice and of the whole organizational, cultural context of supporting people in the community, charity, and all the rest of it. So there's so many areas and layers of benefits, which then give us trust. And then even if I have sometimes a bad day, then I don't take it so seriously, so heavily, because I know in our organization, our community, we counterbalance each other. But even if we are down in some whatever difficult period, then I know there is hundreds and hundreds, by now thousands of yoga teachers out there who are benefiting and passing on what they learned. And then we together make a difference. And this is where it gets so uplifting and inspiring. And then the mutual benefits. I mean, yeah,
Yes.
I could share so many testimonials and reviews and heartfelt moments of mutual gratitude and uplifting inspiration. It's just priceless. So yes, we need money to pay the bills, and there's nothing wrong with the financial component in it. So that's perfectly fine. But that's in a way just a tool, a means to a deeper end. And in a way, we shouldn't be even scared of this whole financial money thing, which is frequently looked down upon in alternative and spiritual communities. Because if we really are serious about making an impact on this planet, we definitely need the resources. So yes, I'm a big advocate to back to nature, the beauty of simplicity and deceleration, slowing down, and back to the roots, very much, yes. But at the same time, we I don't want to put an should, but we could leverage the potential of the technology. Like we are now meeting here in this online meeting without having to travel around the globe. We're on different continents and with a comparatively lower carbon footprint. Yes, also the electronics and servers need their power and resources, but still, we can leverage the new technology to spread the good news, as we are doing in our premium online programs, where we are just producing at the highest level of quality possible from our Bollywood film studios to make it appealing and convincing to people, and that people can stream the Balinese beauty, the tropical magnificence onto their smart TVs in their living rooms, because of course they live in cities and they would like to go out to nature, but whatever, they have families. And we can in this way reach mothers who just could never travel to Asia, and we bring the heartfelt wisdom of yoga and the tropical beauty of Bali right into their living rooms and straight into their heart.
I like the Bollywood Productions. That's a very nice name. And please speak a little bit more about the online teacher training program. How can someone who has never heard about an online teacher training program, what can we imagine? What does it look like?
So we used to offer these courses for a decade on site in Asia, and we've been fine-tuning and polishing the content like in so many ways with this German perfectionism, just bringing it to the best possible content and transmission of the yogic wisdom. And then our challenge was how to bring that online. And just briefly, anecdotally, we were hit suddenly with the surprise of the pandemic and lockdown. We had 3 on-site courses in a row scheduled just there in April, May, June, and we just recorded with our smartphone, completely improvised. by now we've come a long way from that and have this Bollywood studio and have not only this amazing video production to make it really visually appealing, but also have developed a variety of interactive tools which allow for a deep immersion into the content, into the practices. So there's a lot of one-on-one guidance and individualized support provided. Due to the needs of people, we adapted actually our approach to make it fully flexible. So it's kind of rolling admission. You start and graduate in your own time because people have such different rhythms. Some take the course in 6 weeks and are finished. Others take more than 6 months or a year. So depending on life circumstances, it's so humbling to meet in our daily live Zoom calls the people from around the globe. Mothers who are getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning because this is the time slot where they are available, because then they say like, yeah, to be honest, I'm a single mom and I have 4 kids.
Wow.
But I'm committed to deepen my yoga journey. And I'm taking this course slowly because I only have an hour, maximum an hour and a half per day. And I get up earlier in the morning to meet you here and to connect from heart to heart. And it saves my day. And that makes our day, that we know that it touches people's hearts. And it brings tears to my eyes to perceive the dedication of those people coming together and, as mentioned before, uplifting each other in these heartfelt sharing circles. And we provide anything you could imagine, from one-on-one mentorship, personal support, practicum assignments get video recorded by the participants at home. They send us the videos, we watch them, give them detailed feedback on their alignment, on their teaching skills, and all the rest of it. And at the moment, this is even possible to get a full Yoga Alliance certificate because of the pandemic. The US-based International Yoga Alliance and many other organizations give this online teaching exemption. So one can even get a full-fledged certificate by participating in a full online course. And we are leading and pushing the standards to higher and higher levels to ensure that also in this digital learning experience, people receive the best possible experience. Because of course there can be catches like how will you check my alignment and other doubts and questions. And yeah, we gave more than our best to make sure that everybody gets the best possible experience.
Beautiful. So do I understand correctly? You can actually start this course at any time?
Anytime. Rolling admission, start whenever you're ready and graduate whenever your schedule allows. Exactly.
Beautiful. And I know that both from the technical setup, but especially also from the content and the way how it's transmitted, that it's really the best of the best that you can imagine. And if someone would like to find out more now about the courses and the Akasha Yoga Academy, how can they find you?
Yeah, it's very easy. Just akashayogaacademy.com is the URL. You find us on all the major platforms, Instagram, YouTube channel we've been just developing. So we constantly up our game. Now we're getting into YouTube shorts and trying to go with the trends and so on. While being grassroots yogis and nature lovers, we kind of try to bridge between the ancient wisdom and the modern times, the ancient Eastern practices and the modern technologies of the Western world. So delivering the best on all levels. I feel it's getting a bit too much into a marketing talk. So sorry for that kind of strong pitch. But what we actually, maybe one last comment on that, we used to see ourselves in our yoga school more as a bridge from picking people up from the yoga studio industry, fitness center type of workout yoga, pick them up where they are and introduce them to the real deal, proper spiritual depth of yoga, but in a way as a link to pass them on to our teachers and masters. So prepare them and introduce them to the real deal. And a bit like what you said before, it's good to also own that. What for us is currently like a longer period of transition, that we slowly, humbly, but surely try to accept also more responsibility of offering more advanced courses and guiding people a few steps further on the way than we used to in the past. But still, then I know, for example, next week we have Harish Christopher Wallace, a master scholar practitioner with like 3 PhD degrees or something. I was just today telling to our video team, yeah, he's coming. And, I know already many things, but I know maximum 5% of the wisdom and knowledge of Harish Christopher Wallace. And then we up our game by having guest teachers. And this network is, of course, the name of the game, because as mentioned before, we cannot do it alone. It's a together. And humanity can hopefully build on that wisdom of the past and contribute to what you are doing to kind of prepare us for the golden age, and plant the seeds so that we are ready and prepared and cultivate the synergy in our smaller circles, which hopefully will soon ripple out further and further.
Yes, because to blossom into the golden age, I think the most significant step that we need to do is to let go of the illusion that we're all separate fighting for ourselves, and to remember that we're actually deeply, deeply interconnected, that we're all doing this together.
Exactly. And exactly, I do remember very much our first shared meditation retreats, and you've been around slightly earlier there in this period of our dedicated silent retreats. And your practice was earlier, going deeper. And I still very much remember the both of us sitting in the first row of these silent retreats, and how you were obviously already going deeper than me as a rookie beginner there. And I still remember the inspiration coming from your depth and your dedication to the practice. And I remember also years back, it must be also a decade ago, when you went to Peru and put yourself out there and started offering your independent own meditation retreats first, and how you went online and how you were sharing that. And I remember literally very vividly how I was admiring your strength to go out there alone and plant your own seeds, open your own centers. And it's this mutual inspiration that we talked about previously, which uplifts ourselves and each other in the synergy of the family.
That really touches me. Thank you for reminding me of all this. Very much. Yeah.
And exactly, then again, without pride and arrogance, inspiring others. No, also you can make the next step wherever you are. And as mentioned, even if you're a single mom with 4 kids, you are actually in a better place to sincerely learn the art of selfless service, this unconditional love, which for mothers comes so organically. It's a much better spiritual teaching than any retreat center or yoga ashram in Asia. In your family with your kids, you practice genuine yogic selfless service, and we admire you wherever you're at in your life with your challenges for your contributions to a better world.
That's true. And with this beautiful message, I want to thank you, dear Burkhard, for connecting and for sharing all these inspirations. It was really a pleasure to have you here at the Golden Age podcast. Thank you.
Thank you so much for hosting, and thank you so much for passing on the light in your circles. As mentioned, you're a profound role model and inspiration for me. And in some ways, without you, we wouldn't be here in Bollywood Studios. So thank you so much for being who you are.
Thank you.